Okay, today's topic is menstrual cycle. So, what is menstrual cycle? It prepares the body of women for pregnancy. It involves changes in ovaries and uterus. Now, what is the average length of the menstrual cycle? The average length of menstrual cycle is 28 days, but it could be of 21 to 33 days. It is also normal, or it may stop completely. Now, why it is the menstrual cycle it alters? It alters due to emotional stress, mental fatigue, illness, malnutrition, and unbalanced diet. So, how the menstrual cycle it begins, or when the menstrual cycle it begins with the onset of menstruation. So, what happens in the menstruation? As you can see in the diagram, in the uterus, what happens each month? The first part of this menstrual cycle is menstruation. So each month what happens? The blood along with the certain tissues will come out through vagina. This is called onset or the beginning of menstruation. So which tissues come out through vagina? We know that this is uterus. Its outer lining is known as myometrium. It is not included in your syllabus, no need to remember it. And inner lining is known as endometrium. This is, again, its name is not the part of your syllabus. Um, in your syllabus, it is named as uterine lining. So if you remember it as endometrium lining, well and good. If not, then remember it as endometrium lining. आप इसको खाली endometrium lining भी कह सकते हैं, ठीक है, or you can call it endo or uterine lining, or you can call it endometrium lining. Okay, so each month what happened, this endometrium lining will shed off, ये आपकी shed off हो जाती है, and it will come out through vagina. This is called onset of menstruation. So each month what happened in the menstrual cycle, the beginning of the menstrual cycle is indicated with the onset of menstruation. What happened in the menstruation? The blood along with the certain tissues of the endometrium lining or uterine lining, because we know that the endometrium lining is a spongy lining. It is made up of certain tissues and blood. So it will get why it will break down and come out through vagina, we will discuss it later. It happens because of the because of certain hormones. Okay, so what happened in the menstruation? Blood along with certain tissues of the uterine lining will come out. Uterine lining or endometrium lining will come out through vagina. It is called onset of menstruation. So what should happen next? There should be the rebuilding of this uterine lining, because each month we are preparing the body of women for pregnancy. And when will the pregnancy happen? When this uterine lining is fully established, so that embryo can implant itself in the uterine lining. So if the uterine lining is not spongy enough, then embryo will not be able to implant itself in the uterine lining. Remember, the formation of placenta, it happens in the uterine lining. Okay, it happens in the uterus wall. So if the uterine lining is not spongy, then there can't be the formation of placenta. Okay, so what happened next? There should be the rebuilding of uterine lining, and then on the 14th day from the onset of menstruation, there will always be ovulation. What is the meaning of ovulation? Ovulation means release of egg from ovary. Now, how the egg is released from ovary, we will discuss it now. Okay, now after the release of egg from the ovary, then what happened? The uterine lining will keep on thickening because of certain hormone. We will discuss it later. So these are the events which happens during the menstrual cycle. So what are those events? Just listed down. Number 1, menstruation. Number 2, repair of uterine lining. Number 3, ovulation. And number 4, maintenance of uterine lining. So 4 events happen in the whole menstrual cycle. Number 1, menstruation. What happens in menstruation? Menstruation. And after menstruation, what happens? Repair of uterine lining. And then ovulation on the 14th day. Always remember it. On the 14th day from the onset of menstruation, there will be ovulation, that is, egg is released from the ovary, and then the maintenance of uterine lining, and then again menstruation, and then repair of uterine lining, and then maintenance of uterine lining. Okay, so this cycle will continue. Okay, now what happened in the ovary in this menstrual cycle each month? What happened in the ovary? As we studied earlier, that in the ovary, or you can see in the female reproductive system, in the video which is related to female reproductive system, in the ovary at the time of birth, 70,000 potential egg cells are present. Yeah, we studied it earlier. Now, out of these 70,000 potential egg cells, only about 500 eggs get mature, and release from the ovary. तो सिर्फ 500 egg cells आपके mature हो सकते हैं, और या let's suppose 600 egg get mature and released from the ovary each month. And on which day? On the 14th day from the onset of menstruation. ठीक है? So what happened? How these eggs get mature? Detail is not included in your syllabus. Okay, these are so many names. So many names are not the part of your syllabus. Just few names are included in your syllabus. Now, initially this immature egg cell. This is immature egg cell. Now, this immature egg cell is surrounded by a single layer of follicle cell. This is called primordial follicle. Okay, this is called primordial follicle. Now, its name is not the part of your syllabus, so no need to remember it. Fine. Then many of the primordial follicle, each month they begin to mature and form what? Primary follicle. So what's the difference between primordial follicle and primary follicle? Now the egg gets surrounded by many layers of follicle cells. This is called primary follicle. This is called what? Primary follicle. Now only one primary follicle can mature to form Graafian follicle. No need to remember this developing follicle phase and all these things. This is not included in our syllabus. Okay, only one primary follicle. This is primary follicle. This is primary follicle. This primary follicle will mature to form what? All these structures are not included in our syllabus. Only this primary follicle will mature to form Graafian follicle. So what is the difference between primary follicle and Graafian follicle? There is a space, fluid filled space in the Graafian follicle, and over here there lies egg, and these are also follicle cells. Okay, so these Graafian follicle, so what happen each month in the ovary? Only many of the primordial follicle, they begin to mature and they form primary follicle. No need to remember the name of the primordial follicle. Fine. And then the primary follicle, now this is the part of your syllabus. This primary follicle, it matures to form Graafian follicle. Now how it matures? It involves a hormone. We will discuss it later. Fine. There is a hormone named FSH. We will discuss it later in the role of hormone in the menstrual cycle. Fine. So what is the role of this hormone? It is to mature the primary follicle to Graafian follicle. And then what happens? This Graafian follicle will rupture. This Graafian follicle will rupture and release egg from the ovary through exocytosis. Again, this term is not the part of our syllabus. It ruptures and releases egg from the ovary. Now what happened to the remaining Graafian follicle? The remaining Graafian follicle will form, wait, let me remove it. Now the remaining Graafian follicle will develop into a structure called corpus luteum. Okay, so what happened in the ovary? At first, what happened in the ovary? Let me write it down. The primordial follicle or the primary egg, yeah, immature egg, will develop into what? Primary follicle. Primary follicle will develop into what? Graafian follicle. Graafian follicle will rupture and release what? Egg. This is called ovulation. And what happened to the remaining Graafian follicle? It will form corpus luteum. Okay. So now, as we studied earlier, that on the 14th, now we need to study about fertile phase and non-fertile phase of menstrual cycle, as it is also included in our syllabus. Now what are fertile phase? During which fertilization can occur. Okay, so as we studied earlier that on the 14th day from the onset of menstruation, egg will release. Okay, egg will release on the 14th day from the onset of menstruation. So if the egg is, let's suppose if the menstruation it begins on the first day, so it will keep on continuing till 5th, let's suppose. Okay, so the ovulation day would be 14th, because we know that on the 14th day from the onset of menstruation there will be ovulation. Okay, and when we know that egg can survive for, egg का लाइफ स्पैन कितना होता है? 1 to 2 days. तो let's suppose हम जो हायर लेवल है उसको हम कंसिडर करते हैं, हायर बाउंड्री को, let's suppose 2 days. Fine. So egg can survive till day 16. Egg can survive till day 16th. And we know that sperm can survive. Sperm का जो लाइफ स्पैन होता है वो कितना होता है? The life span of sperm is 3 days. हम मैक्सिमम लिमिट पे जाते हैं. ठीक है, sperm, the life span of sperm is 3 days. So if the copulation, egg will release on 14th day, it can survive till 16th day. Okay, so if the copulation it happens on 11th, will it be able to fertilize the egg? Copulation means sperm it comes. So when the copulation it happens on 13th, so will it be able to fertilize egg? Yes, because sperm will be able to fertilize for 1 day. Therefore, yes, fertilization can happen. If the copulation will happen on 12th, will it be able to fertilize the egg? Yes, it can. Why? Because sperm will be able to survive till day 14th. That's why it will be a day of, it will cause fertilization. That's why 12th day will also be included in the fertile phase of the menstrual cycle. If the copulation happens on the 11th, that is if the sperm will come in the vagina on the 11th, will it be able to fertilize the egg which is released on 14th? Yes, it also can. Why? Because sperm can survive for 3 days, 11 to 12 1 day, 12 to 13 second day, and 13 to 14th third day. Fine. Therefore, as the sperm is able to fertilize till day 14, therefore 11th till 16th will make up the fertile phase of the menstrual cycle. 11 till 16 will make the fertile phase of the menstrual cycle. Now why 15? Because egg can survive till day 15th and day 16th. So if the copulation will happen on 15th, it will be able to fertilize that. If the copulation will happen on 16th, then it will be able to fertilize that. Clear? On the next video, we will study about the role of hormones in menstrual cycle. Okay.